The amazing Seattle skyline. With iconic structures like the Space Needle and the Smith Tower, it's become an engineering marvel that just continues to grow. But despite these impressive buildings and their large structure, they're still all very new compared to one building in Lewis County that happens to be the oldest church and oldest standing building in Washington State.
You didn't build a lot of buildings in those days. You didn't have the ability to build as well as we do now. So every building was precious. So when I think about people coming from miles around to go to this church in 1858, that's pretty miraculous.
Edna Fund isn't only a Lewis County Commissioner, she's also a proud historian of the county she serves and loves. One of her passions is the Claquato Church, which is located just outside of Chehalis. The church isn't just the oldest building in Lewis County, it's also the oldest standing building in Washington State.
Because I love that church, looking at that and just thinking, what was it like over 100 years ago, 150 years ago at that church? What was it like for those pioneers that came there to worship there?
The Claquato Church wasn't only a place of worship, it also had its roots in education.
This church was built as a multi-purpose building. They wanted it to be, of course, used on Sundays, and it was also the Claquato Academy.
The building was one of several, including the county courthouse, that were located in the town of Claquato, which also was a stop along the historic Oregon Trail and at the time was the Lewis County seat before the railroad came through, requiring flatter ground and causing the county to relocate its seat to Chehalis. Today, all of the buildings that were in Claquato have been razed, except of course for the church.
It just brings back the pioneer spirit. It just brings back what people had to go through to live in this area when we had such bad rains. And this was a haven. So when I look at it, I see it as a haven, I see it as a sign of pioneer, let's get it done attitude, let's build this church. Can you think about any other structure in the United States being built back in 1858 and still standing and looking as good as it does?
Although this church has stood its ground for over 150 years, it's still seen its share of aging and damage. In 1953, the building was in poor condition until the American Legion stepped in and aided in restoring the structure to resemble its original days of glory.
Mother Nature is probably our biggest enemy, and we are devoted to keeping that church in the best shape it can be. And it's one of those things that when people come to Lewis County, I always say, go to that church.
It goes without saying that if it weren't for historians like Edna, the Claquato Church would no longer be standing today.
Probably my first interest came when someone told me it was going to be celebrating its 150th anniversary. So I wanted to be involved in that.
But it's not just the building itself that makes this church so special, it's also what it means to the Lewis County community.
So I was hooked when I realized how wonderful it is and what good shape it is, and 150 years is something to celebrate.
If you'd like to see the Claquato Church for yourself, it's easy to find. It's near Chehalis, off of State Route 6, which is very close to Interstate 5. That'll do it for this edition of Northwest Now Digital First. Reporting from West Seattle's Alki Point, I'm Chris Anderson. Thanks for watching.